just our appreciation of taste and flavor. It's easy to do and doesn't really matter who you are.
What are your 2 tips? There's 3 types of tasters in the world.
Super tasters, tasters,
And then what's the last category?
non-taster. The fragrance pops out, you are going to become a better regular old taster.
Welcome to
Bean stuff.
Today on the podcast, we are diving into a little bit of palate improvement. And what are we more specifically going to be detailing in this episode today, Dad?
One area is triangulation. Don't worry about the word just yet, but there's many ways you can improve your palate, and we're going to look at one of 6 different ones over the next time slots, whatever. In real sense, it's just our appreciation of taste and flavor. You're discriminating between different, getting a little more sophisticated and thinking about that. In triangulation, they talk about triangulation tests increase your sensitivity to tiny differences in coffee characteristics.
And it's interesting. So it's more of like a detailing the experience that you have in your mouth.
Yes, you're having that experience anyway, but you're saying, I'm just going to stop and think about this, and wow, there's a lot going on.
And really paying attention and keying into that.
Yes.
And triangulation is one of the ways that we can improve that in ourselves.
It's a very easy thing to do. You can do it lots of places. Professionals do it all the time, but it's easy to do and doesn't really matter who you are. If you want to appreciate your coffees more, triangulation is a really simple, good way, powerful way to do that.
Well, and it's interesting because we had talked about this a little bit before the podcast, and you said if people didn't want to listen to the whole podcast, what were your 2 tips?
That's right. 2 tips would be: 1, think rather than just gulp down, smell, whatever you do.
Slow down and think.
Slow down and think. The second one would be practice. If you just practice. Exactly. And there's no shortcut to practice. You just got to do it.
Well, I think that kind of sums up the episode. So I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. No, so I guess as we, there are those things of think and practice, and I think they'll kind of make themselves evident as we go through the rest of the episode as well. But Dad, there are, to start off with, so that we get kind of a base of understanding of who we are as tasters. There's 3 types of tasters in the world, correct?
That's correct. 3 broad categories, and I would put them into, the first one would be called the super tasters.
Okay.
They taste, smell, everything.
Sounds like one of those things that might be a gift and a curse.
Exactly. You're going to smell good stuff and you're going to smell bad stuff. Broadly put, it's like 25% of the population on the earth
is super taster.
Yeah, they may not know it. You may pick it up in terms of, man, you smell things no one else smells. They may never click that they're one of the super tasters.
So we've got the top level is super tasters. What's the next step down?
Next level down, and this is the biggest category, and I would call them the tasters.
Just regular old
tasters. But they're not really, because if you're going to think and practice, you are going to become a better regular old taster. And you're talking about 50% now, approximately, of the population. So you've got the top creme of 25%. Then you've got this large section in the middle, the 50%. And the good news with the 50% is if you don't know it, you don't practice, and you don't think, you start down around 26%. But if you do think and you do practice, you're going to suddenly start going up on the scale, and you will reach up to 74% before you know it. You'll be going, I can think, I can taste. Did you taste that? You'll talk about it more often than you realize.
And you can actually become quite a good taster.
You can. I put a little caveat there too. I believe that females are better than males at this. It's more of a genetic thing that goes on.
Interesting.
We could look at that at some stage. I don't know all the science of it, but I've been told the females have a better chance of being a super taster, and therefore even a taster is not as... there's more females are in that category than males. And
then what's the last category?
The last one, and don't be ashamed if you're in the last category, but there are a few, and I've come across a few of them. And the last 25% would be what they call the non-tasters.
Yeah. So does that mean you just don't taste anything?
Well, you do, but the nuances, the excitement of, wow, this has got this and this, and you're sort of going, oh, it tastes all right, but that's about as far as it goes. And you get on in life and there's not a problem.
You're not inhibited as a human.
No, and I know a few people who are in that category, and they're wonderful humans.
Wonderful people.
They are wonderful people, and they realize you can't have it all.
How do you actually test for that? If I don't know what kind of taster I am, is there a way to
There is
define
actually. It's got a long scientific name. I've got this little tube at work it's like a little bit of litmus paper that you put on the middle of your tongue.
Yeah.
And I won't give it away, but what you taste on that will show, it doesn't show the super tasters, but differentiates between tasters and the non-tasters, that last 25%.
Are you a super taster?
That particular test, I'm sure there's other ones you could do, would tend to put me up there.
The whole idea of this tasting and what this is we want to give you some skills and kind of teach you about some stuff that's helpful in honing that in a little bit. So there's a lot of other things that are in the Q grader, book of things.
Don't be put off by the Q grading sort of title there. But if you look at what the Q graders go through, it does help us improve our palate, knowing the basic taste, sour, sweet, and salty. What's the difference? Let's combine them. Let's see if we can sort of start differentiating them again in that palate.
Today we want to look at triangulation.
Yep.
We want to dig a little deeper into that. This is something that people in the industry or people outside of the industry can do, and it's something that's going to really help hone your palate. I think it was Michael Ryan talked about the palate being one of the most important things to cultivate.
Yes.
As you journey through coffee.
It excites me, this one, because it's one that's easy, but it's one that I've used a lot myself in training and help with others, and you'll be amazed how quickly you start learning things that you didn't think you knew.
My first question is, what if I'm drinking coffee at a coffee shop, or if I'm going into work at a roastery tomorrow, why is triangulation important to me?
When you're drinking your coffee, you can say, this is peach rather than pear.
Gotcha.
And that helps you go, oh yeah, I know the difference. And now I can appreciate, there's a good word there, you can appreciate pear, you can appreciate peach. Then you can start talking to others who will say, that's pear, we've got that one locked in, and this coffee I'm tasting tastes like pear, exactly the same as what I just was testing.
And I would add, I think it helps you to become more critical while you're cupping.
You're thinking critical. I like that, Reed. Yeah.
It helps you to, because I think so oftentimes if I ever do a cupping, it's like, sometimes I can be there and I'm like lost for words as far as like what differentiates these two. Oh, they both taste like coffee. Or, so sometimes coming up with the words or coming up with why these are different can be challenging. And this is a great way to kind of test yourself against that.
And you can go a step even before that, or even giving it a word. You can say, and I talk in cupping classes of if you can just differentiate these two coffees, you're on your way. You've done well.
So triangulation, it's simple but powerful. What's the first thing we need to know about triangulation?
Triangulation, tri being three, of course, like a triangle. And what you're looking for is one of these is not like the others. And
like Sesame Street.
I was going to say we could start doing the little song if we want to.
One of these things is not like the others.
And that's usually the first thing people think about Sesame Street. And they're right. It is. One of these is not like the other two. It's not just one. You've got three things going on here.
So it's setting up, you have three different things you're smelling or tasting.
Yes. And I put a little caveat there too, that today we're just going to talk about smelling, the fragrance. If you were doing a full-on triangulation, you move into the tasting, you go into a cupping like we've done before, and you can actually taste the differences as well. I think the aroma has a bigger percentage of finding which one's easier in a sense, but it's just it's very accurate to finding which one is by itself, and therefore the other two are together.
So how do we set up a triangulation?
Triangulation. All you need is 3 utensils, cups, and to place your coffee in. You grind them all the same, and you have 2 different coffees. That's the triangulation part here. Is you may have an Ethiopian and you may have a Brazil, whatever. It doesn't really matter because you're going to learn all these eventually, and you'll grind from one bag of the Ethiopian, so it's exactly the same coffee, and you put them into 2 cups. You take the Brazil, you grind that one, and you put it into the 3rd cup.
Gotcha.
So now you've got 2 Ethiopians and 1 Brazil.
So you've got 2 cups with the same coffee, 1 cup with something different.
Yes.
And all the cups, I guess, is important to make sure all the cups are the same.
That's right.
Not that the 1 cup is different or something.
And that is a good point you make, because I like to try and do this blind. What I do is put a little get a little yellow dot that you can stick on the bottom, so you know which one is the one that's by itself, and I'll put B on it for Brazil or something.
Right.
And then I'll put them on the table, and I try and close my eyes without ruining the table and putting cups onto the floor, but I move them around.
Shuffling them around.
And or get someone else to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're basically ready to triangulate. You're going to work out which one is all by itself and which two are the same.
What are some kind of, like, I know you said sniff the back of your hand.
Yes.
What are some of the things that we want to be aware of as we're going into this?
I should say too that it starts off, if you've never done this before, it's like, what coffees would I start with? Well, don't start with the same farm that has minute sort of differences in the character of the coffee. Start with 2 Ethiopians and a Brazil. I'd get just good at distinguishing those, put them in the cups, 2 of one and 1 in the other cup, and move them around and get really good. And you get really quick at it. And you just smell. Yep, this definitely, you lift the cup up, voila, it's got the yellow dot underneath it. Oh, yes.
Perfect.
And once you got that under your belt, change the coffees out.
Yeah. And what's the process of triangulation? How do we start it? How do we get into it?
Yeah, you have the 3 cups in front of you, and I think you tend not to try and hold your hands behind your back or something, rather than bring your hands up and shaking it into your nose.
So no shaking.
No shaking, probably a good idea, because really all that does is the fragrance pops out, and the person who comes to smell the cup after you, if you're doing it with more than just yourself, can't smell it as much because you've shaken it and the smell has disappeared.
So actually shaking the cup can actually make the fragrance dissipate from the actual.
Yeah, it's pretty delicate, so you need to be delicate. So best don't just take your nose down to the cup rather than cup up to the nose.
You had said it's important to go with your first impression.
That's right. There's a disease in
oh no.
Yeah, there is. There's a disease in triangulation, and that would be called the taste fatigue.
Taste fatigue. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is that?
That basically is as you smell coffees and do it again and shake and change the cups around and smell again, you get overloaded in your senses, and you're starting to smell the same as the last time, and the same cup. What cup 1 smells is the same as cup 3 and 2 does.
What can we do to help reduce the scent fatigue?
Yeah, you mentioned a good thing. There's different things. You can smell the back of your hand, your shirt. You got to be careful here that you don't have too much deodorant on, because that will smell. This smells perfumey, or like whatever, Old Spice. So smell something that neutralizes between the cups. That's not a bad thing. It's simple to just smell. I just smell my sleeve, and that helps me sort of lock in the first taste and neutralize it, so I can then smell with 100% the next one.
Right. Then you're not going in with fragrance from the other cup or something already on your mind. You kind of have this new cleared out space in your mind to smell the next cup there.
It's helpful. Don't panic.
It's not life or death.
It's not life or death unless you're in a Q grading exam. But and you do a whole lot of these, and it's just a really good way to practice and get good at distinguishing. And once you start, you're on the slope now of I can smell this and that and earthy now. I know what that smells like, and these are not bad smells; they're just different smells that you have not used to smelling and identifying as such.
Right. Right. So you've got, you've sniffed, you're sniffing your hand or something in between, you're looking at all these things, and the whole goal is to identify the 2 that are the same and the one that's different.
Yep. Go for trying those 3 cups. And as I say, don't go back, because that just confuses the brain. It's like multi-choice. Right. Yeah, go with your first impression.
Go with your gut.
Yeah, that's right.
Or in this case, go with your nose.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's good.
And then you say to change, or so we've gone through this process. We're not panicking. We've decided, this cup number 4 or number 3 is different. It wouldn't be.
It's a quad or something, or whatever number 4 is.
And what do we do once we've gone through it once and I've already decided this cup is different?
I would go through it and check if it got the yellow dot, however you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it right, do it again and find it.
Well, when you do it again, would you shuffle the cups again?
I wouldn't. I would just start simple and just get used. Oh, here's the one that's different. Smell that one again. You go, oh, yeah, that one does smell different. Then, once you've got sort of good at that, and that won't take long, then as you say, you can shift the cups around, close your eyes, just shift them around a few times, get someone else to do it, and start over again. And once you get to 100% every time you shift them, you do it, you smell the odd one out, do it again, smell the odd one out, and 100% you say, wow, I've got Ethiopian and Brazil under my belt. That's a bit of a generalization, because there's so many coffees in Ethiopia and Brazil. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and how many times should we do that? Like, what's the typical I guess, what do they do in Q grading? How many times would they do this process with the same cups, essentially?
Right. Q grading, they get a bit overboard on this, but you're going to do 4 testings of this for 45 minutes.
So 4 times 45.
Well, not 4 times 45. You're going to
4 tests in 45 minutes.
4 tables of 6 coffees about. Then they'll go away and you'll get another 6 that you'll now try and
so
triangulate.
You do that 4 times. It takes about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so obviously you may not have the capacity or the amount of coffee to do that where you're at now. Whoever's listening.
Yeah.
But there's no time limit that we have to do for this.
No, it's that simple.
While we're doing this, what are some things we can keep in mind, like, focusing on like a dominant flavor, or what are the things that we can kind of be looking at to help guide us through that process?
That's right. And this is where knowing the lexicon helps. So you've got some words out there and you can test yourself on that. But you're looking for just something that's dominant, that stands apart from the other coffees.
Right.
Makes it unique, and you can smell 2 and you go, they're pretty dominant.
Right.
And then the third one, and it may be the third one, I don't mean the end of the line, it may be the first cup you taste is the odd one out, or smell that you taste. And just what is the dominant? And you may go, it's fruit, nutty, spicy. That's
Right.
broad generalizations. That's good. If you can distinguish them just from that, you have done well.
That's pretty good. So you're looking at bold flavors. You're looking at what's unique with this one from the others, and hopefully 2 of them taste similar.
And that's where we're sort of moving into the Q rating test, and you go into a cupping and you can taste it hot, warm, or cold, and that'll give you some indications. Oh, when it's cold, this one obviously is the odd one out.
And that's a good point too. As they cool down, they may differentiate in flavor more drastically.
That's right. But that's if you've gone to the next stage and you've actually cupped, you've put hot water on them and you've done that whole thing. We're just talking about just smell the coffee and you get that one under your belt. You will have done well.
As we begin to wrap up what we're talking about with this, we want to reiterate one of the things we talked about earlier was pick something that's very different to start with. But don't make it too hard on yourself. Don't pick 2 different Ethiopias from different farms or something. Yeah. Make it something where it's, like you had talked about Ethiopia, put a Costa Rica in there, put something that's very different.
Yeah. Natural coffees are very different. You get Ethiopian naturals, they've got a definitely berry fruit flavor to them, and then there's going to be some differences. You compare that to a Costa Rican washed or something, and they are very different, and you will feel better about yourself because you'll say, oh, this is easier than I thought.
It's like getting into the kiddie pool first, and it's you know what? If you've never been in water, that's where you need to start.
Yeah, good idea.
You got to learn to be in water before you can learn to swim.
That's right. I guess some go, jump in the deep end and they have to, you live or die. But
well, in this case, you don't live or die. I mean, you mostly just live.
Hopefully. Oh, yes, definitely.
But start with something big. And as you kind of progress through that triangulation, get into, different origins. Or, like you were saying, you could try an Ethiopian washed versus an Ethiopian natural. We had talked to, in a couple episodes, one of our first episodes with Emily and Mike McIntyre about washed Ethiopian and how that's a big thing coming about. But try different styles of processing of the same coffee even.
Yeah, that's right. If you can on the same farm and get a natural and a washed,
right?
That's great.
That's
There's
fantastic.
Just so many varieties of coffee. You won't know everything, but as you practice, you will get. You will get better at it, and it will make your enjoyment of your cup of coffee in the morning so wonderful.
Well, and it's even. I mean, I think that's the big piece is you will start to quickly be able to identify different flavors. To me, it seems like a more interesting way than cupping the same thing in 6 cups or whatever, how many you might have.
Yes.
To then detail its flavor, go for a couple different ones.
Yeah.
Like this, 2 that are the same, one that's different, and see what flavors you can pull out. And comparing them against each other, it may help actually to pull out flavors into different coffees.
Yeah, you start appreciating coffee at a new level, I guess. A lot of us appreciate coffee. There's a lot more probably you don't,
right?
For whatever reason that may be.
All the non-tasters.
Yeah, that's right. There's those who think they're tasters. Anyway, they but you take it to a new level, and suddenly the enjoyment in the cup is way, way more than you ever realized.
Yeah,
you get snobby, you get a bit nerdy, but you're enjoying your cup in the morning.
Absolutely,
and you know why.
So triangulation, we've talked about it. There's more we could probably even go into. If you've got questions, again, let us know. We're so thankful again that you would spend time with us to listen and to hear what we have to say about coffee. But we look forward to having you join us in the next time. Thanks.